My wife said, "Take the guest room until you learn respect." I said, "I'll keep the house." She laughed, left for her sister's birthday dinner, and figured I'd fold by midnight. Instead, I met a lawyer, printed bank statements, and let her own mother discover why our emergency fund had become my final line. Original post: I'm Evan, 37, from Raleigh, North Carolina. My wife, Mallory, is 34. We were together 8 years, married for 5. I work as a software implementation manager for a medical billing company. Mallory works in event coordination for a hospitality group downtown. From the outside, we looked organized: clean house, nice neighborhood, decent cars, vacation photos once a year. The kind of marriage people assume is stable because both people know how to smile in public. Inside the house, it was different. Mallory had a habit of turning every disagreement into a test. If I pushed back on something, I was cold. If I wanted to talk through it, I was exhausting. If I asked for basic boundaries with her family, I was selfish. And when she really wanted to make a point, she'd use space as punishment. Guest room, silence, little power moves, never screaming. Just that calm, superior tone that made everything feel smaller than it was. The fight that ended us started over money. Her younger brother, Tyler, wanted to open a food truck, which would have been his business, except he had no business plan, no permits in place, 2 maxed-out credit cards, and a habit of calling everyone else unsupportive when they wouldn't rescue him. Mallory had invited him over for dinner without telling me the real reason. Halfway through pasta, Tyler started talking numbers. Then Mallory looked at me and said we could loan him $18,000 from our emergency fund. Not ask. Loan. As if the discussion was already over. I set my fork down and said no, calmly, just no. Tyler got offended immediately. Mallory jumped in right behind him, talking about family, loyalty, believing in people. I asked Tyler one question: how much of your own money are you putting in? He stared at me and said that wasn't the point. That was exactly the point. He left angry. Mallory waited until the front door closed, then started in on me. Said I embarrassed her, said I made her look stupid, said I never respected her judgment. I told her risking our emergency fund on her brother's impulse project wasn't judgment. It was panic wearing lipstick. She went quiet for about 3 seconds. Then she said, "Take the guest room until you learn respect." I remember looking at her, really looking at her, not angry, just done. I said, "I'll keep the house." She actually laughed, thought I was being dramatic. Thought I'd cool off. Thought I'd sleep in the guest room, go to work, come home ashamed, and apologize for not financing her brother's fantasy. She grabbed her purse and said she was going to her sister's birthday dinner and I could enjoy thinking about my attitude. I didn't follow her, didn't argue, didn't call. The next morning at 8:30, I was in a lawyer's office with 3 years of bank statements, our prenup, the mortgage file from before we got married, and screenshots of the text she sent me after she left. Hope the guest room helps you remember who your family is. My lawyer, Andrea, didn't overreact, which I appreciated. She just read everything and said, "Don't empty joint accounts, don't touch her property, document everything. And if this is the last straw, then make decisions like you mean them." So I did. I opened a new personal checking account and rerouted my paycheck. I printed every statement showing who contributed what to the emergency fund. I changed the home alarm code because Mallory had given it to her mother, her sister, and probably half the county by then. Then I emailed Mallory a clean, boring summary. No money would be loaned to Tyler. My income was now going into a separate account, and future financial communication should be in writing. She came home around 6:15. Read the email in the driveway. Walked in furious, called me controlling, petty, financially abusive, dramatic, said normal husbands support their wives. I told her normal wives don't volunteer $18,000 without asking. Then I told her I was filing for divorce. She stopped moving after that, not because she was sad, because she was shocked. And that, more than anything, told me I was making the right decision. Update 1: it's been 4 days. Mallory moved out the second night after a lot of slamming drawers and one broken picture frame she later tried to blame on me. She's staying with her cousin Dana. I know because Dana texted me at 11:42 that night saying, I'm sure this is just stress and pride, but maybe don't throw your marriage away over one disagreement. One disagreement. That's how these things always get rewritten. The final insult becomes the only story, everything before it disappears. I replied once. I sent Dana the screenshot of Mallory telling me to take the guest room until I learned respect, plus the part where she volunteered $18,000 without asking. Then I said, this didn't start this week. It just ended this week. Dana never answered after that. Mallory did, though, constantly. Long paragraphs about betrayal, about how I blindsided her, about how I was punishing her for loving her family. Then she switched tactics and started sounding wounded instead of furious. I never thought you'd actually do this. I was upset. Married people fight. Married people don't file paperwork. That kind of thing. Paperwork had, in fact, already been filed. She found that out when she got served at work yesterday. Apparently that didn't go over well, because 20 minutes later her friend Kelsey emailed my office account calling me cruel and humiliating. Not Mallory's personal email. My office email, at my job, which told me exactly where this was headed. I forwarded it to Andrea. Then I blocked Kelsey everywhere I could. The surprising part came from Mallory's mother, Denise. She called me yesterday evening. I almost didn't answer because I assumed it would be another lecture. Instead, she sounded confused, not angry, just confused. She said Mallory told them I had drained all our accounts and left her with nothing. I said that wasn't true and offered to send the statements. There was a pause. Then Denise said send them, so I did. Every boring, ugly little detail. The emergency fund balance, my deposits, Mallory's deposits, the mortgage history from before our marriage, the text about Tyler. The email I sent calmly laying out what I was doing, no name calling, no theatrics, just records. Denise called back an hour later. All she said was, she did not tell us this version. I told her there weren't versions. There were documents. She got quiet again, then said, I'm not taking sides, but $18,000 is insane. That was the first honest sentence anyone in her family had said about this. Meanwhile, Mallory tried a softer approach this morning. She showed up in my office lobby with coffee from the place I like and a little white envelope. Reception called upstairs and asked if I wanted to see my wife. I said no. Please ask her to leave the envelope with the desk and I'll collect it later. I waited an hour before opening it. 2 pages, half apology, half accusation. She missed me. I was overreacting. Marriage required grace. I had always been emotionally rigid. Tyler was family. She was embarrassed I made private problems public. She didn't know who I was anymore. I photographed the letter and put it in a folder. I'm keeping a folder now. That's where we are. At work, things are weirdly good. My director told me I'm leading a new hospital rollout next quarter, which usually goes to someone older. I went home after that, made tacos, sat in silence, and realized the house felt less tense with one person missing. That thought hit harder than any argument ever did. Update 2-3 weeks later, things got dumber. Mallory stopped trying to sound reasonable and started trying to sound injured. There's a difference. First came the missing jewelry accusation. She texted saying her grandmother's sapphire bracelet had disappeared, and if it wasn't returned immediately, she'd call the police. I didn't answer. I sent it to Andrea. Then, because I am apparently living in a sitcom written by accountants, Denise called the next day to say the bracelet had been found in Mallory's own overnight bag. No apology. Of course not. Just silence. Then Tyler came by the house. Doorbell footage got all of it. Him stomping up my front walk, pounding on the door, yelling that I'd ruined his chance to launch his business and poisoned Mallory against her own family, which was especially interesting since Mallory had been the one trying to poison me against my own judgment. I never opened the door. I spoke through the camera once and told him to leave. He kept yelling, said men like me die alone in clean houses. Charming. I called the non-emergency line. By the time an officer arrived, Tyler had peeled out of the neighborhood like a teenager in a bad movie. The officer took the footage and noted the incident. Andrea used that to send a cease and desist to Tyler and copied Mallory's attorney. That same week, Mallory tried a financial rewrite. She sent me a spreadsheet claiming I owed her $94.80 for emotional distress, moving expenses, half the value increase of the house, and reimbursement for furniture she mostly picked out but I mostly paid for. Andrea laughed at the emotional distress line, which I needed. Then she circled 3 charges on Mallory's own joint credit card activity after she moved out. Salon, hotel, online boutique, total $2312, all after separation. All paid from the joint card she claimed I was abusing her through. Funny how documentation works. The biggest twist came from Denise again. She asked to meet for coffee. Public place, middle of the day. I almost said no, but curiosity won. She looked tired. Told me Tyler's food truck opportunity already had tax issues attached to it. Told me Mallory knew that and left it out. Told me the whole family had been pressured to contribute and everyone else had already said no. I asked why I was the villain then. Denise rubbed her forehead and said because Mallory is very convincing when she feels rejected. That landed. Before we left, Denise said something else. You were not wrong to draw the line. You were just the first one who did. I didn't know what to do with that, so I just thanked her. Mallory, meanwhile, found out from somebody that I'd gone to dinner twice with a woman named Autumn who owns the bookstore near my office. Nothing serious. 2 dinners. Easy conversation. No games, no punishments, no strategic silence. Apparently that was enough to send Mallory into orbit. She called from a new number and left a voicemail saying, "So that's it, you had someone lined up. This was your plan all along." It wasn't, but I saved the voicemail anyway. At work, I got the rollout assignment officially. Comes with a raise in July. Small one, but still. My house is quieter. My blood pressure is lower. My kitchen stays clean for more than 4 hours. Amazing what peace does to a man. Final update, it's been a little over 2 months since the guest room comment. The divorce isn't some dramatic courtroom explosion. It's mediation, signatures, schedules, spreadsheets, appraisals, and the slow death of every lie that can't survive paper. Which, as it turns out, is most of them. The prenup held. The house stays mine, though I did have to pay Mallory $6,500 in settlement for agreed marital contributions and a few shared furnishings. Fair enough. She keeps her SUV. I keep my retirement, the mortgage, the office furniture, and my sanity. She is also responsible for the post-separation charges she ran on the joint card. That part made her furious, which I enjoyed more than I should have. At mediation, she tried one last version of herself in the hallway, not the furious one, not the superior one. The hurt one. She stepped away from her attorney and said quietly, "I didn't think you'd actually end us over one sentence." I said it was never one sentence, that was it. No speech. No revenge monologue. No grand closure. Just the truth she had spent weeks trying to shrink. Denise surprised me one final time after mediation wrapped. She shook my hand. Actually shook my hand. Then she said, "I love my daughter, but she confuses control with respect. I'm sorry you lived with that as long as you did." I believed her. Mallory has apparently moved into a high-end apartment she cannot comfortably afford, and Tyler still does not have a food truck. Last I heard, he's pitching a landscaping startup now. God bless the next investor. As for me, I turned the old guest room into a home office with a leather chair I've wanted for years and a second monitor I didn't need permission to buy. That room used to be where conflict got sent to cool off. Now it's where I do my best work. Autumn and I are still seeing each other. Slowly, like adults. She texts to ask how my day is and does not call basic communication needy. Huge plus. The raise came through, not massive. Enough. My director told me I seemed lighter lately. I said I'd improved the home network. He laughed. I wasn't entirely joking. Here's what I learned. A lot of controlling people never frame themselves as controlling. They call it standards. They call it respect. They call it love, family, emotion, stress, timing, misunderstanding. Anything but what it is. But once someone starts using affection, access, sleep, money, or peace as a weapon, the relationship is already rotting. The final fight rarely starts the collapse. It just reveals how long the structure has been cracked. Mallory told me to take the guest room until I learned respect. What she meant was submit. What I learned instead was this: peace is expensive at first, then priceless after. If you've ever had someone mistake control for love, tell me in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, like, share, and subscribe.